Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the June 16th. I'm sorry, not June 16th, June 18th. My days are mixed up. Board of Commissioners legislative meeting. We're going to start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance, which I will do the honors. Thank you all. Item number 2 on the agenda, roll call. Manager Elliott, please.
Yes, good evening. Commissioner Arman,
Here.
Commissioner Brockington,
Here.
Commissioner Cherico,
Here.
Commissioner Lewis,
Here.
Commissioner Norris,
Here.
Commissioner Rappaport,
Here.
Commissioner Ziegman-Feld.
Here.
All right, everyone's present.
Thank you, Manager Elliott. Item number 3, the Sunshine Act announcement. I'll turn it over to our solicitor, Mr. Diazio.
Thank you, Commissioner Arman. The board has met a few times in executive session since last month's meeting. The board met on May 28th and June 16th to discuss matters related to acquisition of real estate. The board also met this evening, June 18th, also to discuss a few matters of acquisition of real estate and also to discuss the status of litigation with Boucher and James, the township's former engineer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diazio. Moving on to item number 4, public comment on agenda items. This is the time when anyone in the public may comment on agenda items. There will be an opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting on anything that you like that may not be on the agenda, but now is the time to be recognized for agenda items. And we'll start here in the hall. We have a gentleman come on up to the microphone and then we'll go to Zoom. Please state your name and the area of the township where you live, sir.
Yes, my name is Tom Peterson. I live on Landfair Road in Cheltenham Township. Thanks for having me here today. So I would like to describe my experience of attempting to provide citizen input for the Melrose Country Club development during the past 14 months, since I believe it speaks to the concerns of many of your constituents. I have lived in Ward 7 for the past 32 years. That is Commissioner Brockington's ward and is home to the Melrose property. During the past year, I have attended at least 6 meetings, including meetings of the Board of Commissioners, the Planning Commission, meeting hosted by the developer at the Melrose site, Building and Zoning, and the EAC. I have reviewed nearly all of the applicable township regulations, including the saldo and the zoning codes. I have consulted with environmental and legal experts. At the initial meetings, when this proposed development was first introduced, we were told that there would be plenty of opportunities for community input. In my opinion, that has not been the case at all, and I have several reasons why I believe that not to have been the case. Number one, when I have spoken at the meetings, I would get aggressive pushback on certain issues and on other issues, I would get no response at all. Number two, when I have sent out several emails with detailed questions and comments about the development, I get no response from any of the commissioners with the exception of Commissioner Rappaport. Number three, the developer is given unlimited time to describe their plans, while I have been limited to 3 minutes with no opportunity for follow-up. Number four, for a development of the largest remaining open space in the township, the commissioners should have set up listening sessions for the community and sought input. Instead, the commissioners relied on the developer to hold only 2 sessions last summer, which were essentially commercials for the development. So I want to ask you, commissioners, whether you value the input of your constituents on this proposed development. No response. Okay. I would welcome the opportunity to provide further input on Melrose, especially with respect to environmental issues, as I am an environmental consultant with over 40 years of experience. For example, Article 4 of the Saldo, Section 260-36, calls for a riparian corridor management plan. Has one of those plans been developed? So in closing, I want to urge you to vote against the proposed development, or at least postpone the vote until we've had more opportunity to provide comment that is listened to by the commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. As you pointed out, we did have community meetings on this matter. There were a number of public meetings as well. And to answer your question specifically, which I think was rhetorical, but I'll answer it anyway. The Board of Commissioners does value citizen feedback. There may be times when the board doesn't agree with a particular set of citizens' feedback, but certainly we value it all and encourage you to continue to express your views both here in our meetings and in other fora. But thank you for being here tonight. Anyone else in the hall tonight that for public comment on agenda items? Seeing none, I'll move to the Zoom meeting, and I see Ms. Stein, please.
Hi, Emily Stein, Wincoat. I just wanted to say that I'm glad to see action related to property acquisition for the Glenside Flood Control Project on the agenda. But I want to echo Commissioner Rappaport's repeated requests to get public design meetings scheduled. We do not want to end up hearing from PADEP that we are too far along in the process to provide any real input on the design. And we do not want to have to deal with whatever the state uses as its default if we're not able to provide info on the design. This is a residential area abutting a bird sanctuary. We need to ensure that the design matches the area that it's surrounding it. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Stein. And in fact, I don't know if Commissioner Rappaport wants to give an update. I think, is there not a meeting coming up?
Yeah, I think that's not a public meeting. It's a staff meeting on the site, and I want to say it's in July, but I can't remember. And we're working on setting, go ahead, Manager Elliott.
Sorry, thanks, Commissioner Rappaport. Yes, we are having a staff and commissioner site meeting, but we are working on setting up public meetings as well.
Okay. Thank you both. Thank you, Ms. Stein. Any other public comment on agenda items? All right. Seeing none, I will close item number 4, move on to item number 5, approval of the Board of Commissioners regular meeting minutes dated May 21st, 2025. I will move for approval. Are there any comments or questions on the minutes from our last meeting? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Item number 6, acceptance of the executive summary financial report for the month of April 2025. Any comments or questions? I'll move for acceptance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 7, acceptance of the accounts paid report for the month of April 2025. Comments or questions there? All right, seeing none, I'll move for acceptance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
On to item number 8. The board is going to present a proclamation recognizing June 19th, 2025 as Juneteenth this year. And Commissioner Cherico is going to do the honor of reading the presentation of the proclamation.
Thank you, President Harmon. This is a proclamation of the Board of Commissioners of Cheltenham Township. Whereas Juneteenth commemorates June 19th, 1865, when Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and informed enslaved people that they were free 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. And whereas the history and culture of African Americans in the United States are integral parts of our nation's heritage, and whereas Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom and a reminder of the long and arduous journey towards equality for Black Americans, it is also a time to reflect on the impacts of slavery and work towards a more just and equitable society. And whereas on June 17th, 2021, President Joe Biden signed the bill to establish Juneteenth as a federal holiday, commemorating the end of slavery in the United States and marking a significant step towards acknowledging and honoring the history of enslaved people. And whereas as we celebrate Juneteenth, let us recommit ourselves to the work of equity, equality, and justice. Remind ourselves of the centuries of struggles, courage, and hope that have brought us to this time of progress and possibility, and ensure that the events of 1865 are not forgotten. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Township of Cheltenham, Montgomery County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, hereby recognize June 19th, 2025 as Juneteenth. And be it further resolved that we recognize and honor the legacy of Juneteenth, done in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, under our hands and the seal of the Township of Cheltenham, this 18th day of June 2025, in the year of the Township of Cheltenham, the 126th.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherico. And thanks to the board for that proclamation. In conjunction with the proclamation that Commissioner Cherico just read, I'm happy to announce that for the first time in our history, we had a flag raising of the Juneteenth flag today and a ceremony at the township building to as a supplement to the proclamation that was announced today. So just want to put that out there. And I expect that will continue to happen on an annual basis. So if you weren't able to attend today, put it on your calendar for next year. Okay, item number 9, presentation of a resolution recognizing the Glenside Fire Company on the celebration of its 125th anniversary. The resolution, which I will read and ask the board to approve, is as follows. Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Cheltenham Township, whereas the Board of Commissioners of Cheltenham Township, Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, with deep gratitude and immense pride and admiration, salutes the Glenside Fire Company on the momentous occasion of its 125th anniversary. And whereas Glenside Fire Company has faithfully served the community of Glenside, Wyncote, Laverock, and beyond since May 17th, 1900, providing fire protection, emergency response, fire prevention, and community outreach to its residents. And whereas for 125 years, the men and women of the Glenside Fire Company have exemplified courage, commitment, and service to others, responding selflessly in times of crisis and volunteering countless additional hours of their time to train for emergency situations, working tirelessly to keep our community and surrounding communities safe. This 125-year milestone is a testament to the enduring legacy and continued excellence of the Glenside Fire Company, its leadership, and all those who have served. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of Cheltenham Township duly convene in regular session this 18th day of June, 2025, does hereby officially salute the Glenside Fire Company for its outstanding service to the Cheltenham Township community for 125 years and applauds its continuing protection. It is further directed that this resolution be spread in full upon the minutes of this meeting, and that a copy thereof be conveyed at the Glenside Fire Company banquet on June 28th, 2025. In witness whereof, I, Matthew Arman, President of the Board of Commissioners of Cheltenham Township, have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the Township of Cheltenham to be made part thereof, done in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania, in the year of the Township of Cheltenham 126th. And now it's my honor to move for adoption of the aforeread resolution recognizing the Glenside Fire Company on the celebration of its 125th anniversary. Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And thank you to the Glenside Fire Company and to all our fire volunteers in the township, all the fire companies, for all the amazing work that they do. Okay, moving on to item number 10, the Public Works Committee, chaired by Commissioner Ziegmanfeld, met on June 4th, 2025. Commissioner Ziegmanfeld, do you want to give us an overview of what occurred there?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Public Works Committee did meet on June 4th, and we have a significant number of issues to cover off, so we'll go right through it. 10A, adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 5, Administration of Government, Article 7, Advisory Boards and Commissions of the Cheltenham Township Code to review Sections 5 to 49, boards and commissions enumerated to update the list of recognized boards and commissions and amending Chapter 9 Advisory Board and Committees to revise 9 and 10 to include language, establishing the Shade Tree Advisory Commission and referring direction to its composition, powers, and duties to Chapter 280, trees, and revising sections 9 to 11 to include a new citizens committee called the Cheltenham Township Active Transportation Committee. There is an attachment. I would suggest that in that attachment in particular, we're beginning to focus on those citizens committees that are making active contributions and looking for assisting the board in making some of the tough decisions and giving us feedback and guidance on some of the things we're doing. So I'll ask if there's any questions or comments from members of the board on this. Commissioner Cherico?
Thank you, Commissioner Zygmunt-Felt. I'm thrilled that tonight we have an opportunity to formally establish Cheltenham's first active transportation committee. This is something that you all know I've been passionate about from the start of my term on this board, but also as someone who for a decade now has walked the streets, would love to be able to bike the streets, but I don't always feel safe doing so. But I care also deeply about how people move around in this township. The committee that we are forming today, in my opinion, is more than just sidewalks and trails. It is about creating a community where kids can walk to school, seniors can safely cross streets. We can all safely cross streets, no matter of their age or their ability or mode of transportation. We want everyone to feel protected and in what we build and what we plan. I'm hopeful that this group helps us to think smarter about connectivity and equity and sustainability. And I'm especially excited about the opportunity it creates for community involvement and the expertise to help shape the future of Cheltenham. So for anyone that is watching, we will be asking, as long as this passes tonight, we will be asking for members of the community from all sections of the community of the township to come forward and be part of this committee. So I highly encourage you to volunteer your time if you're so interested. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherico. Commissioner Rappaport?
Yeah, thank you. And, full-hearted support of this direction and of this ordinance, but we still have a typo in there that excludes wheelchairs. Excuse me. So we got it into the definition, item B, but we didn't get it into the first whereas on the second page of the ordinance. So it gives the list and says the use of non-motorized devices such as scooters, and then omitted wheelchairs there as well. So I don't think this requires us to have to go back and re-advertise. It's simply a typo because it was included in the following page, 911B under definitions. So I think we just need to insert that in the final copy. Thank you.
Do we, Commissioner Rappaport, do you think we have to add language that includes the use of motorized devices as well?
I had a problem with the non-motorized devices, but I'm leaving it to other people to figure that one out. But as I say, we did get the parallel wheelchair language in later on in the definition. So just as long as we include it in the other place, then you guys can figure out what you mean by non-motorized. Because certainly there are electric wheelchairs that need access.
And perhaps one of the charges of that committee is to look at and be able to do an assessment of the criteria where there could be motorized devices, because obviously some of the trails would not accommodate motorized devices in terms of their ability to go through difficult terrain or whatever. So possibly that's one of the early charges, Commissioner Cherico, that we can look into. Commissioner Arman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the ordinance, I have no quarrel, Commissioner Rappaport, with the comments that you made about adding wheelchairs, but perhaps our solicitor can weigh in on the necessity to have it in a whereas clause, which I don't know if is actually part of the ordinance. So maybe.
Yeah,
we could
so,
get some
so the
advice.
whereas clauses, I mean, you're voting on the ordinance, but what will become part of the code are the actual amendments to the code. So after tonight, you won't see these whereas clauses anywhere.
Given that it's the first mention of everything except wheelchairs, I just think it's an oversight that needs to be fixed.
We can certainly add that word to the whereas clause. I would caution against further rewriting anything, but if there's a word
Well,
that was missed, I
Keep
think
in mind,
that's
you
acceptable.
know, last time this came up, I made that comment about the substance. So it really should appear in both places.
I'll move that we approve this item 10A, to accept the ordinance and look into some of the other options, the modes of transportation that could in fact be incorporated in future activities.
So your motion is to, just so I'm clear, your motion is to adopt the ordinance, but you are tasking the committee with additional responsibilities once they are established. Is
That committee beyond Commissioner Cherico, yes.
Okay, fair enough. So we have a motion for adoption of the ordinance. Manager Elliott, I think we need an ordinance number.
We do. The ordinance number is 2490-25. Commissioner Arman,
Aye.
Commissioner Brockington,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherico,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Norris,
Aye.
Commissioner Rappaport,
Hi.
Commissioner Ziegman-Phil.
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item 10B, approval of an agreement with Cheltenham Deer Management for the 2025-2026 Deer Management Program. There was extensive discussion in Public Works with respect to the inclusion of certain areas and some of the limitations, as well as enabling for specific kinds of harvesting. So I'll ask if there are any questions or comments from members of the board on that item B. I see none, Mr. President, so I'll move for a vote to authorize this.
Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approval say aye.
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 Item C, 10C, adoption of a resolution granting conditional preliminary approval and associated waivers for site improvements of CTDA number 25-02, the Enclave at Melrose, 7600 Tookenny Creek Parkway, to redevelop the former Melrose Country Club property into a mix of residential, institutional, commercial, and community uses, including the development of private roads, parking lots, access drives, sidewalks, curb ramps, utilities, landscaping, and stormwater management controls. There is an attachment. And I guess what I would ask, Mr. Solicitor, if you would, for this as well as the next resolution, could you describe what conditional approval is in this scenario from a legal standpoint as we move through this process?
Sure. So there's two resolutions before the board this evening, one in 10C, one in 10D. One of the resolutions relates to the overall site development of the proposed redevelopment of the Melrose Country Club site. And one of the resolutions deals with phase one of that project. It's called conditional approval because within each of the resolutions, there are a number of conditions. And those conditions need to be met, and the board's approval is subject to those conditions. So unless and until those conditions are met, the board's approval does not have any legal effect.
Thank you. And I'll just add that there's been input from staff, from subject matter experts, both within staff and outside, the Montgomery County Planning Commission, multiple citizens committees. And in fact, you know, there have been probably between 50 and 100 people who are credentialed, who weighed in on the various review of these two resolutions. So I just want to make it clear that while there may be a concern that every voice hasn't been heard or attended to, there's been significant input from the community and from folks that we rely on to help keep us in the right direction legally and in compliance with our ordinances. Now I'll ask for comments from members of the board. Commissioner Norris, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Zygmunfeld. As you stated, but I would like to state it again, perhaps. We do value and listen to the community input. This meeting is just one of many opportunities for that input. So there have been numerous other opportunities, and the discussion on this issue is not complete with tonight's meeting. There will be further opportunities, and we absolutely listen to input from our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Norris. Commissioner Rappaport.
Thanks very much. I actually have two different sets of questions, and I'll try to be real fast. I didn't notice in the first set, in the first couple of iterations, something I found here. It was in the section, it was actually page 18 in our materials, but in the Gannett Fleming letter, I think of May 14th, item 22, sewage facilities design. We defer to Aqua for review of the proposed sanitary design. Now that doesn't sound like just connections. So I wonder if somebody's able to discuss what we're talking about here. That almost sounds like, and then later on at 26, it talks about a pump station. So I'm wondering, is there an equalization plant? Is there a sewage plant here? What's going on?
We have the applicant's attorney here who could perhaps can answer some of those questions.
Sure. Good evening,
Farrell.
everyone. Amy Farrell with Kaplan Stewart. That is the part of the reason for that comment is that there is a combined effort where we've been working with Aqua to not just address our sewer design for the development itself, but to also help Aqua to address some of the more township-wide concerns that DEP has raised over the last several years with respect to sewer in the township. So there's a little bit of a kind of combined effort between the developer and Aqua to address some of those issues. So some of the design outside of our development itself will come from Aqua directly because it's going to be their project relative to this sort of larger community question that they're trying to answer. So there's a little bit of interface there between what we're designing and what they're designing and making sure that all ties together appropriately and that it happens in sort of the timeframes that it needs to happen in so that we can connect and they can continue to do some of the other work that they're doing. So it's a little early stages. That's why in part this is conditional. And that's why you see that comment in Gannett Fleming's letter. We'll be working with Aqua over the next, several months to finalize both our layout and their layout and then make sure that those things all tie together.
And I don't want to press you if you don't have, if it's still too preliminary, but I don't understand what the parameters are. It's more than a hookup. It's more than hookups. What kind of infrastructure are we talking?
Correct.
Commissioner, excuse me, this is Roger Phillips. Commissioner, I can address this. So the design of the system, Aqua will ultimately own everything up to the development. And it's my understanding that within the development, those sewers will be private. But because they're tributary to Aqua-owned systems, the design parameters must meet Aqua standards because Aqua is the owner of the owner of the system downstream. Cheltenham Township is no longer the owner of the sewer system.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm still trying to understand, is there going to be a sewage plant or an equalization basin or something like that on the property? That's my question.
Yeah, so what I can tell you so far is that based on the process of design and where we are in the design with Aqua, the on-site sewer connections for the development itself will be gravity lines fed to a pump station on the southern end of the site. Aqua is also then separately looking at equalization tanks to address some of the community related sewer that's not specific to our site, but that are issues that DEP has raised for Cheltenham Township for the last, 10 plus years. You folks would know better than I would. But Aqua has reached out to us about securing some land in order to be able to do that. And we're working with them to figure out where that goes and how that ties in. So that's a little bit of what you're seeing in terms of the comment. And I think to Roger's point, because Aqua ultimately owns all of that and will operate all of that, it's their design and their review. So that's why the township generally defers that now.
Okay, but I'm sorry, again, I don't mean to be argumentative. This hasn't really been discussed by the board. And so there's some aspects of it. I mean, the township doesn't own your stormwater management facilities either, but we have, we do expect an operations and maintenance agreement and things like that. So the fact that this is going on without, the deference is supposed to be going to Aqua. I don't see any deference to the township or to any kind of maintenance agreement or access or any other kinds of things.
Well, any improvements that occur within our property that are held by us will be subject to all of our land development agreements, and those agreements are direct to the township. Aqua's relationship with the township is entirely separate from ours. So whatever improvements Aqua may be looking to make that would tie into that system, I mean, I would ask that really is you guys, your relationship with Aqua and how that works in terms of those agreements. I think that's separate.
Okay, thank you. I'll move on to my.
Counselor, a question, is the effluent that's coming from your development going to go to the PWD treatment facility that already is highly stressed and that kind of thing?
It will be going down there, yes, which is part of the reason that we're working with Aqua and PWD and DEP. And we have been for the better part of a year now in terms of figuring out how all of those connections are made. So again, none of this can happen in terms of the development until that piece ultimately gets sorted out as well. And that's why these approvals are all conditional.
And as part of what you stated, are you proposing that there's going to be sewage withholding tanks on property that there will be scheduled releases, and what are the size and, the amount of capacity in those tanks, et cetera?
Yeah, so my understanding is that Aqua, and again, that's an Aqua project. It's not our project. The Aqua project is related to work that Aqua is trying to do in parallel with the work that we're doing on site to solve issues with effluent that are unrelated to our development and that have been in place for a long time in the township. There's space on our site to do that in the lower sort of southwestern corner. And they've asked us to take a look at that area to make sure that we can accommodate that. Exactly what size those tanks are, what that design looks like, that's all Aqua. That's not us.
But it's not limited to Aqua or to your development, because it does impact the residents and it impacts everybody both within the property and proximate to the property. So it's to Commissioner Rappaport's point, it is a concerning element, and I think it needs a little more description than it's in Aqua's court or it's partially in our court. I understand you're accommodating some of the elements, but it is, I think, essential, and I know this is a conditional approval, but it's still essential for us to know how that's being handled. The history of those sewage retention facilities is rather sketchy, so I think we want to know a lot more detail, and I'm sure that our township engineer and those who we're relying on would also be concerned about that. So I just wanted to add it, having had experience with that in some of the other developments that are in the township. Any other questions on
And
that
if I could
realm?
just follow up on that and keep in mind that that resolution relative to the site improvement is purposely preliminary only, right? So you're not approving a final as to that section of the plan. The preliminary final is phase 1 only, which is the pads essentially for the residences and the TBI. That's part of the reason that the site work submittal is preliminary only, because we are working through those details with Aqua. So when we come in with a final plan, and you're going to see that plan, it's going to go through the process of review, just like a preliminary did. That's where all of that sewer detail gets worked out.
So within that, we're going to expect that there's going to be details about adequate capacity, not just for phase one, but also with each stage.
Correct. The site plan and the final approvals relative to the site plan address the entire site. So it's all of the capacity related to all of the uses. And Aqua at that point will have more detail about their tank size and location and all that as well. So that's again why this is, it's two different pieces of the puzzle we're looking at here, and the site work approvals are preliminary only at this point.
Does anybody else on the board have any questions along this line, or we'll return to Commissioner Rappaport? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'll just say I don't know if we're really engaging with Aqua about that, but I think it seems like we're a little early to be, that kind of line in there. It feels a little premature, but anyway, okay. My other question goes back to actually what Mr. Peterson asked. I think, and I don't recall the exact wording, he asked at the beginning of the meeting about the riparian buffer management plan. So yeah, it would be helpful just to refresh our minds about that. What's the status of that?
I'm happy, I guess, to take a stab at that as well. So again, the preliminary plan set for this project is, I think, 115 or 118 pages. Included in that plan set are all of the documents related to, and all the plans related to the floodplain and riparian buffer, and all of the work to the extent that any is required. And you'll recall that we spent a great deal of time in connection with this project purposely staying out of those areas and all of the environmentally sensitive areas. So there's very little change within those areas. Where there is any change or there's any impact on those areas, we're satisfying all of the ordinance requirements relative to reforestation, rewooding in those areas, all of the other requirements related to stream bank restoration, floodplain management, crossings, all those things. So anything that is required is shown and has been reviewed through that plan set. There are additionally, because we are in the floodplain, because part of this property is in the floodplain, as part of the NPDES approvals and DEP's ultimate approvals as well, relative to any kind of stream crossings, there are separate permits and reviews and approvals by outside agencies that all happen as well as part of that. So again, because we're at the preliminary stage, the final versions of all of that get teased out and finalized based on the comments that we've received. And then you look at it again at final. So there's not a lot of work or change within either the floodplain or the riparian buffer, but where there is any impact, we have addressed it through the plans.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Oh, Commissioner Brockington?
Hi, good evening. Why Ms. Farrell is up there. I don't know if she sat down. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't be here tonight. Amy, can you speak to the issue? I know Mr. Peterson had some issues with the trees coming down, and I know I had to do that at one of our last meetings, but I wonder if you can speak to the issue on the trees being removed from the property.
Sure. And I think you all heard this last time, so apologies for the repeat, but just to make sure that the public generally knows what's going on there. So there were two different factors at play, you'll recall, relative to, we'll call it maintenance issues on this site. There was a prolonged period of deferred maintenance by the prior owner, 10 plus years of really no effort with respect to any of the trees or landscaping on site. That led to two things. One, as I think you all know, running north-south through this site along Ashmead Road is a massive gas line that serves a significant part of the township. That is in a gas line easement. The gas line company, not long after this owner purchased the property, reached out, came out, did a bunch of surveying, and determined that a significant number of the trees along Ashmead were impacting the gas line and were severely close to becoming a really significant problem. So we spent a lot of time with the township code officials and the gas line company to identify all the trees along Ashmead that needed to come down or to be trimmed, and what the sort of combination of those things were.
In parallel to that, last summer, there was a death on site as a result of a tree that looked healthy to everyone. All insurance companies involved have also agreed that that tree looked perfectly healthy and in fact was not. It came down and it killed a young man. As you can imagine, the owner takes that quite seriously. We spent, again, a significant amount of time with our arborist and the township's arborist, with insurance companies, with lawyers, with code officials, to do a full tree survey of the site. We identified as part of that tree survey every tree on site that was within any of the impact zones, as well as the trees along the creek, because that's where one of those trees that came down was. The arborists looked at two different factors for every single tree that they surveyed. One, whether it was structurally sound or not, and two, whether it was diseased or dying. And they have a whole matrix, and it's literally every tree within this, 118 acre property of any reasonable caliber. And they identified all of the trees that really needed to come down for one of those two reasons, right? And what we found, and when we've suggested this before to folks, is that a tree may look healthy to the naked eye and to the untrained eye, but in fact, as we learned in the incident last summer, often is not and can be quite dangerous. So the developers undertook a tree removal and tree maintenance program, again, with consult and review by the township. This was not done kind of in the dark. And we've been in the process over the last year and a half of removing trees that needed to be removed as part of that program. However, on top of that, because we knew that we were coming in for land development, that tree survey was incorporated into the preliminary drawings and will be, again, obviously in the final drawings as well, so that every tree that has come down is counted, so that we are counting all of those trees towards the tree replacement requirement. So we haven't taken any credit for any of those trees. Those trees were coming down whether development was happening or not, but because development is happening, we did not take credit against those replacement requirements. So we are replacing as to all the trees that have come down. The tree replacement, or excuse me, the tree removal program ended like early May, I want to say. That was kind of the last of the trees that came down. I think those are the trees that some folks were, it looks to us based on the angles of the photographs, were on the property, took some photographs. And I think those were some of the emails that you received relative to concerns about trees coming down. So we've been back through that with township staff. We've confirmed that, again, everything was done as part of that overall program we've been working on. And again, all of those trees were accounted for as part of the replacement requirement.
Thank you. And one other question or statement. Are the general public allowed to be on this property?
No, and thank you for that. We do appreciate that. This is private property. It is closed to the public. This will become a particularly important concern, obviously, as construction starts. It's just not safe to be wandering around a property that you don't own. You don't know what's going on it, especially as we start construction in the coming months. We will be certainly more diligent on our end in making sure that we're enforcing those property rights. It's just too dangerous to have folks wandering around on the property. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments from members of the board? Go ahead, Commissioner Rappaport. I have one or two too.
Again, this isn't necessarily aimed at our approval or not of these resolutions, but I'm sure our staff is in contact with Aqua about this sewer situation, but I don't feel up to date with it. And I wonder if we can get Aqua to come and talk to us about what their plans are and keep us posted on the design. Because I mean, we're going back 12 or so years ago, but 10 certainly. There was discussion of an equalization tank and pump in the Ashbourne development area. And the engineers were talking about that. There was a report that talked about it being an open basin, a surface basin as opposed to underground. So I know there is variation in what can be designed, and I think it's important that we have a handle on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Rappaport. I think those, I kind of asked that question of Ms. Farrell with respect to the sewage holding tanks and that kind of thing. Ms. Farrell, a couple other questions. I know that there had been some questions raised about both the riparian buffers and the steep slopes. Having had the experience with the Ashburn Country Club, to Ashburn Meadows, I'm wondering the identification of natural versus man-made areas on those. With golf courses, there, while everything was declared and some of the protestants, including myself, raised issues about what was and wasn't man-made, those things were determined. And the impact on the development, obviously, that had to be taken into account. Could you just give us a little overview of how that's being managed?
Sure. So prior to any zoning application, we had a full site survey done, including test borings, soil tests, and a whole series of other, folks that are a lot smarter than me really relative to soil science undertake. And a report was prepared along with survey drawings, which were submitted to Henry Sakawangu, the township zoning officer. Under your zoning ordinance, it's the zoning officer who makes the initial determination in consultation with the township engineer as to whether slopes are man-made or naturally occurring. So they made those determinations before we finalized our zoning submittal so that we could be sure that we didn't need any relief, and that if we did, obviously we were asking for that relief. We did not ultimately need any relief relative to steep slopes on this property because the slopes that are being impacted are within areas that were all determined to be man-made. And again, we're staying largely, almost entirely out of floodplain, creek slopes, riparian buffer, et cetera. That's where all the naturally occurring slopes are. You'll also recall there's a waiver request in this application relative to not installing sidewalk and curbing along the southern edge of Tookaney Creek Parkway. Again, that is in part because those are environmentally sensitive areas that everyone agrees we should stay out of. So that's an area, for example, that if we were required to put sidewalk and curbing in along that little stretch that we own, we would likely also need some steep slope relief because those are naturally occurring, but we're not touching those.
Thank you on that. But you did mention soil testing, and I'll go back to the experience that I had with Ashburn Meadows. And the fact was that when on virtually all the golf courses that date back, more than 75, 80 years, one of the ways that they controlled unwanted growth was the use of arsenic. So I'm wondering if there you have reports from the EPA, et cetera, that say the clearance that was done or that will be done will remove sufficient soil, because I know at Ashburn Meadows, they had to go down over 2 feet and removed, my recollection is somewhere around 200 tons of topsoil in order to be able to move forward. Now, obviously, not the entire acreage is going to be green, that they're going to treat it, but I want to make sure that for future residents and all the businesses and people that are going to use it, that there's no residual risk.
Yes, so there's, in parallel to this process, is the environmental assessment process. So there have been multiple reports prepared and submitted. We're working through those with our environmental team and the state regulatory agencies. They will also all, just as has been done on other properties, there will be permits issued related to that. They will make determinations as to what has to come out, how much of it, and what we have to do to remediate in each of those locations. That all, because those are also outside agency permits, those all have to be in place before we can start moving any dirt. So those happen as part and parcel with this next phase of kind of the final land development approvals relative to our site work, in parallel with the county's MPDES and the state EPA requirements and everything else associated with that. So that all kind of comes to a head together. All those permits have to be in place, and then we can record drawings and start work.
Thank you for that. So can I ask if anybody else on the board wants to weigh in? Are we going to take any public comment? Okay, I'm going to pass on the public comment side of it. And I'll move that 10C, the adoption of the resolution granting conditional preliminary approval and associated waivers for the site improvements. That's the site development of CTDA number 25-02, the Enclave at Melrose at 7600 Tokenie Creek Parkway, be approved by the board. Mr. President?
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Thank you, Mr. President. I'll move to item 10D. Adoption of a resolution granting conditional preliminary final approval and associated waivers for Phase 1 land development of CTDA number 25-02. The Enclave at Melrose, 7600 Tokenie Creek Parkway, which includes 1, the 158 age-restricted 55-plus residential dwelling units and 71 market rate single-family residential townhouses, and 2, a traumatic brain injury center and assisted living units located north of the Tokenie Creek Parkway, and there is an attachment, and that is the Phase 1 component. And Mr. Diazio, since this is a preliminary final approval, are there different considerations that the board has to make on this one?
No, there's no different considerations. The conditions are outlined in the approval resolution.
So I'll ask for questions or comments from members of the board on the proposed adoption of this resolution. And again, just to remind, it's the Phase 1 piece, which is some specific elements of what is, not the total overall plan. Commissioner Norris.
Thank you. Can you just remind us on why these two resolutions are split out?
Sure. So it's been very purposefully done that way so that the site plan, right, the site improvements, the kind of overall improvements that we've just been spending all this time on, those have a series of comments within the township engineer review and the traffic review letters that we want to make sure we've addressed, that we clean up any note comments, we finalize stormwater calculations, we address the Aqua's sewer design, et cetera. So that's preliminary only because that really is the kind of bigger, the big chunk of this development, right? That's all of the roads and the sidewalks and the stormwater and all those things. We will then, similar to what we've just done here with this Phase 1, we will come in for the more isolated improvements relative to the particular uses. And those are much more discrete applications, right? Because it's very specific to that building. Does it tie in correctly to grades? Does it match what is in the overall plan, et cetera? That phase is ripe for preliminary final because those kinds of immediate issues have been generally cleaned up. It is still a conditional approval. So we do still have to satisfy, we've got to get all the outside agency approvals, et cetera. But it allows that piece to be looked at independently to a certain extent because it is a more sort of discrete component. So what you'll see moving forward as we go through the rest of these phases are, we'll be back into obviously on a final on the overall site improvements, but otherwise you will see phased submissions that are preliminary final as to the more discrete uses. So for example, we're anticipating that the next phase that you're going to see is the medical office building and the assisted living, independent living. So that will come in as a separate sort of preliminary final plan that will get reviewed to confirm that it conforms to the overall site, et cetera. So we wanted to make sure it was separate because you are going to need more time on the overall site work approvals. And that's why that one's preliminary only, this one's preliminary final.
Thank you.
Any other questions from members of the board? Just a couple that I have. Ms. Farrell, in that Phase 1, how much of your, your developable acreage is being utilized? What's the total picture? Then how much is developable and how much is going to be utilized in that Phase 1 effort?
I don't know if I have that number for you. It's what I can tell you is it is the northern townhomes and it's the traumatic brain injury component. So left out of that are the MOB, the ALIL, the southern townhomes, so that entire development on the south portion, the retail, and then the community amenity that we're still talking through.
Can you get that information to
I
us
can-
subsequent
I
to
can
this?
get you that number. It's a little hard to give you just specifically that number because of the overall site work and how that kind of, it's a little hard to just peel out those numbers, but we can get them for you certainly.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from members of the board? I see none, so I'll close. And Mr. President, I'll move for adoption of the resolution granting conditional preliminary / final approval and associated waivers for Phase 1 land development of CTDA number 25-02. And again, just to get it, it includes the 158 age restricted, that's age 55 residential dwelling units, and 71 market rate single family residential townhouses, as well as the traumatic brain injury center and assisted living units that are located in the northern part of the development. So I'll so move.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I'll move
Thank you, everybody.
an E, approval of a change order in the amount of $61,909.71 for additional time and materials to prepare the proper foundation for stabilizing imbricated wall for the stream bank restoration project on Tookenny Creek at Kleinheinz Pond. Do we need any comment or input from our engineer? Or can we just move forward on this? All right, I see none, so I'll move for approval of that change order, recognizing that sometimes when we work on a significant thing, we learn things have to be done different and better in order to protect our public and stabilize that part of the stream. So so move, Mr. President, for approval of that change order.
Any comments or questions on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. President. Final item, I think, item 10F, award of a contract for biodegradable and recyclable paper leaf and grass collection bags on behalf of the Montgomery County Consortium of Communities members to MID Hardware, Inc. at a cost of 62.6 cents per bag, resulting in a total bid for this township of $37,560. I don't see that needs any discussion, so I'll move for approval, Mr. President.
Comments or questions from the board? Just for the public's membership edification, these are the bags that get sold at Public Works or at the libraries through the township. So maybe not Public Works. I saw someone shake their head, but at the libraries. With that, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 And with that, that was the business of Public Works on June 4th. I will move acceptance of the June 4th minutes from Public Works.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you,
Aye.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Ziegman-Feld. Item number 11, the Building and Zoning Committee also met on June 4th. We have no business to bring before the board, so I will move for approval of the meeting minutes from the Building and Zoning Committee. Any comments or questions on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Item number 12, the Public Safety Committee met on June 11th. Commissioner Brockington joining us virtually. Do you want to tell us what happened?
I do. Thank you, sir. Yes, we met on June 11th, and we have three things that we have to vote on tonight. Item 12A, adoption of an ordinance amending Chapter 285, Vehicle and Traffic, Section 285-43, Street and Parking Regulation of Cheltenham Township Code to amend the traffic regulation to remove a handicap parking in front of 7919 Park Avenue in Cheltenham. And I call for approval of the item 12A.
So we have a motion from Commissioner Brockington. Manager Elliott, could we have an ordinance number,
An
please?
ordinance number?
Yes, Commissioner, the ordinance number is 2491-25. Commissioner Arman,
Aye.
Commissioner Brockington,
Aye.
Commissioner Cherico,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
Commissioner Norris,
Aye.
Commissioner Rappaport,
Aye.
and Commissioner Ziegman-Feld.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We move
Point
on
out
to item.
that, and I don't know if that makes that much of a difference, but on A and B, the town name is Cheltenham, but they're both Elkins Park.
Elkins Park.
Number 3 does indicate Elkins Park under Glen Oak Road, but I don't know if it makes much of a difference, but just for
Okay.
clarity.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Cherico. I will read that into the minutes for 12B. Authorize the advertisement and consider adopting of an ordinance amending Chapter 285, Vehicle and Traffic, Section 285-43, Street and Parking Regulations of Cheltenham Township Code to amend the traffic regulation to remove a handicap parking in front of 1714 Chelsea Road in Elkins Park, Cheltenham Township. All those, Mr. President, I call for a vote.
There you go. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to item 12C, authorize the advertisers consider adopting an ordinance amending Chapter 285, Vehicle and Traffic, Section 285-43, Street and Parking Regulation of Cheltenham Township Code to amend the traffic regulation to remove a handicap parking in front of 7901 Glen Oak Road in Elkins Park. Mr. President, I call for a vote.
All those in favor of the motion to authorize advertisement of this ordinance, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. Then I call for the approval of our minutes, which from the meeting, which was held on June 11th, 2025.
All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockington. Commissioner Rappaport, Public Affairs met on June 11th.
We sure did. Thank you. Although there isn't anything further to vote on tonight, we did vote for that proclamation for Juneteenth. And I will add that the township will be at Cedar Brook Middle School tomorrow, representing the board and reading the proclamation there. So with all that, I'll just move acceptance of the minutes for the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Rappaport, and also for those announcements. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 14, the Finance Committee also met on June 11th. Commissioner Norris.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met on June 11th. There are no items that need our vote on tonight. So I will move for acceptance of the regular meeting minutes dated June 11th, 2025.
Any comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of accepting the Finance Committee meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 15, old business. Any members of the board have old business? Commissioner Cherico.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think it was last week, maybe it was the week before, we had a committee meeting in which we discussed the violence towards some animals over at Robinson Park. And it's quite disturbing, the pictures that we saw. They're images of geese, baby geese who had been strung up with fishing line and other things. Very clearly from those who've seen it, shows that they believe it was intentional. And we talked at great length about perhaps the children who were doing it. Since that time, I've also heard of additional violence towards animals at Wall Park. This is concerning to me that we have repeated incidents of young people who, or any person that continuing to hurt wildlife. We talked a couple things about, obviously, if anyone sees something like this, reporting it to police. Our Parks and Rec director also said, there's opportunities to engage them with more positive activities. I am asking the public just to be aware of this and to report it where we can. I think that there should be, we need to be aware of this, and I don't think you should just walk past it if you see it. I think we should get involved and say something to police, because I'm concerned that if children are doing this now, it only leads to more and greater violence as they get older. So I please ask the community's support in identifying, reporting them to police so that we can address this and stop any sort of violence like this.
Thank you, Commissioner Cherico. And perhaps for Lieutenant Snyder, I wonder if we have ordinances that address this sort of thing, and whether we need to relook at that in light of this sort of uptick in violence against wildlife.
So as far as the township ordinance is concerned, we don't have a township ordinance specifically. However, we do have a crimes code section for cruelty to animals that we could cite under if we were to respond to something like that. I really want to reiterate how important it is for anybody who sees activity like this to call us. we obviously can't be everywhere all the time. The public is our best set of eyes. So if you see something like this, please call 911 and we can come out.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Commissioner Cherico. Any other items for old business? Commissioner Rappaport, and then Commissioner Brockington, I'll get to you.
Thank you. Yeah, this had come up last month and over the years. The condition of some of the the state of the parking lot at the corner of Penrose and Cheltenham in bordering our historic district there, and some of the speeding on Penrose. Basically, the area needs a bit of love and attention. So, and code enforcement. So, whatever we can do, just a reminder that that area needs some attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Rappaport. Commissioner Brockington.
Thank you. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank Commissioner Cherico, Commissioner Rappaport, and I believe Mr. Salvador. They will be attending the Juneteenth event at Cedar Brook. I'm not able to attend. I'm out of town, and then they're going to be reading the proclamation. I know that already came up, but I wanted to just take the opportunity to thank them for attending. And any commissioner or residents tried to attend this event. It's a great community event this year being held at Cedar Brook Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockington. Any other items for old business? All right, seeing none, I will close old business. We'll move on to new business, and there are two items for on the agenda. The first item, 16A, authorize advertisement of an ordinance authorizing the condemnation by eminent domain of real property located at 5 North Avenue in Wyncote, PA 19095. There's a parcel number for municipal purposes. Before I ask for comments from the board or questions, I'll just say that as Ms. Stein said at the top of the meeting, this advertisement of an ordinance and the next item are both related to the long-awaited Glenside flood control project. But it is demonstrative of the efforts that this board continues to pursue in order to make that project a reality. So I would encourage everyone on the board to approve the authorization of this advertisement. Is there any other comment or question on this item? All right, seeing none, I will move for authorization of the advertisement of the ordinance. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 16B, very similar, authorize advertisement of an ordinance authorizing the condemnation by eminent domain of real property located at the intersection of Rice's Mill Road and East Glenside Avenue. There's a parcel number, parcel ID, excuse me, for municipal purposes. Comments or questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, I will move for authorization of advertisement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all. Is there any other new business for tonight's Board of Commissioners meeting? Okay, no more new business. Closing new business, we'll move on to Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity for any citizen to step up to the podium or your computer at home, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Anyone here in the hall? Sure, come on up. Come up to the podium. Please state your name, the area, the township where you live, and you'll have 3 minutes.
My name is Angel Santos. I'm in Ward 1. I've been a resident since 1995. And also I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. My name is Angel Brandon Santos. I'm here tonight to file a formal citizen's complaint against the Cheltenham Police Department regarding a series of disturbing and unlawful events that occurred between March 1st and March 9th of 2025. On March 1st, I was illegally removed from my home by the Cheltenham police officers due to an out-of-state protection from abuse order filed in New Jersey, not Pennsylvania. That order had no legal jurisdiction in this state, which I attempted to explain to the responding officers, which is all captured on video, my video, and not only on body cam video. I requested to speak to a supervisor or sergeant. but no one ever came. After nearly 2 hours, I was threatened with arrest in front of my children if I did not leave. Out of fear and concern for my kids, I chose to comply. Before leaving, I asked officers to document the condition of my home using the body-worn cameras, as I feared accurately that Mrs. Shanina Williams will break in, steal property, and damage my home. I then left and stayed in the hotel where the VRT set up a place for me to stay. When I went there, I got sick with the flu. The entire removal was unnecessary, illegal, and traumatizing. On March 5th, a judge in the Burlington County, New Jersey, amended the PFA, stating clearly that she had no jurisdiction over Pennsylvania and that I would return to my home immediately. This proves what I tried to tell officers on March 1st. They had no legal grounds to remove me. Later that same day, March 5th, I called 911 because my home had been burglarized and my vehicle was stolen from my property. Shockingly, not one officer from the Cheltenham Police Department showed up to my 911 emergency call. This is a clear violation of protocol and public safety standards. I was extremely upset, confused. How could a 911 burglary call go ignored? On March 9th, I called again in hopes of receiving help from an officer who had taken my report seriously. An African-American female officer arrived and spoke to me rudely and unprofessionally, dismissing my stolen vehicle as a civil matter and refusing to file a stolen vehicle report. She did not identify herself properly. She did not investigate the burglary, and she did not enter my home. She did not take pictures, and she did not write down any notes. This was a clear dereliction of duty. After this, I used the proper chain of command and filed a formal complaint with the Cheltenham Police Department. That complaint was assigned to Lieutenant O'Neill, who has since condoned the burglary and theft, offering no support or accountability. Despite multiple attempts over the last 3 weeks, I have not received a single return call from Chief Slavin. I have also reached out to Ann Rappaport, who directed me to contact my ward commissioner, Matthew Armin, who I spoke to last week. And he has yet to secure a callback from the chief. I stand before you tonight because I have exhausted every internal channel. I am being ignored, disrespected, and dismissed. All I am asking for is a proper police report so I can use in my civil hearing scheduled for July 24th, 2025. Therefore, I respectfully request a board of commissioners to launch a formal investigation into why I was illegally removed from my home on March 1st based on an out-of-state, out-of-jurisdiction PFA from New Jersey. Why the Cheltenham Police did not respond to my March 5th 911 call reporting a burglary in a stolen vehicle. Why an officer refused to investigate the March 9th burglary complaint. Why Lieutenant O'Neill falsely stated that a call was made to me on March 5th, even though I provided phone records proving otherwise. Why the chief of police has completely refused to communicate with a citizen seeking lawful assistance. I am here. I am not here to attack law enforcement. I'm here because I believe in accountability, and I believe our community deserves better conduct, better protection, and better leadership from its police department. Thank you for your time and attention on this important matter.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. I appreciate you giving us the date for the hearing because hopefully we can use that as a benchmark for the investigation that's taking place. But you and I did speak. There is an investigation going on internally, but I'll turn it over to our solicitor to explain what we can and can't do while an investigation's going on.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure. I'm happy to do that. Just to reiterate what Commissioner Arman said, your complaint has been received. As you noted, you sent it around to a number of commissioners. It's been received in the administrative ranks at the police department. They're taking a look at it. You're not being ignored, but it's a complicated matter, as you've sort of outlined here, and it's being looked into.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santos. Come on up. Just state your name, the area of the township where you reside.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Katie Hunzinger. I am in Ashburn Meadows, Ward 7. I am a biomechanist and a professor by day. My wife and I are also proud volunteers with the Elkins Park Fire Company, so congratulations again to Glenside for 125 years. We moved back to the area last year to Ashburn Meadows to be closer to aging family members. I'm here tonight to express concerns about inconsistent treatment by the township, particularly related to engineering escrows and stormwater permitting requirements that appear to fall outside of the bounds of established township regulations. So I want to thank Commissioner Brockington for his help thus far, but I want to ask the entire board for help in our advocacy. So to orient everybody to the timeline, on May 6th, our HOA submitted a right to know for the entire neighborhood and the township asked for an extension on that, which is now expired without fulfillment. In the meantime, my request for a modest 190 square foot patio, a class 4 earth disturbance activity well below the township regulations of 250 square foot threshold that triggers additional stormwater review, was told that I needed to pay for an engineering escrow and submit an earth disturbance permits, directly contradicting Township Ordinance Chapter 290. When I went in person to the township around May 7th, I was met with unprofessional and dismissive behavior. One staff member refused to get up from his chair to have a conversation with me and shouted across the room, "Yes, some asshole from your neighborhood submitted a right to know for the entire community." I said, I calmly stated, "I've read the land development agreement." He stated that we are separate to regulations. It's in the land development agreement. I said, "I have it with me. It's right here." And he backwalked and sent me over to a different department. That department told me to look to clause 12 of the land development agreement, which I pulled up. That clause says nothing about separate mandates or stricter permitting for Ashburn Meadows as it pertains to Cheltenham. So for the bigger picture, is if the township's true concern is stormwater management, it should examine how the developer failed to meet their obligations for stormwater management under the land development agreement. According to a private engineering report commissioned by our HOA, required topsoil depth of 6 to 12 inches was not met, with many areas throughout the community having less than 3 inches of topsoil. When I filed a warranty claim last month, the builder turned over our backyard and uncovered large rocks, cast iron pipes, construction debris, tarps, plastic water bottles, cinder blocks, all of which violate the land development agreement and state regulations for ENS BMPS. So I respectfully ask the board to help get us clarity and transparency. Why is Ashbourne Meadow residents being charged engineering escrows and earth disturbance permits when our projects fall within township regulations if it's under 250 square feet? And why the township is unwilling to provide the legal basis for these requirements. This process has been frustrating, confusing, and deeply disheartening. We are simply asking to be treated fairly and by the same rules of every other taxpaying resident of Cheltenham. And so any clarification of this land development agreement and upholding as it pertains to environmental issues like impervious surface, stormwater management, given that Ryan Holmes is seeking to develop the Melrose Country Club, is important concern, I think, for Cheltenham as a whole and not just Ashburn Meadows. So thank you again for your time and attention.
Thank you, Dr. Hunsker. But I can't personally speak to all the legalities of what you raised, so I will turn it over to our solicitor for some commentary. But before I do that, the comment that struck me in particular was about the response you perhaps got when you came into the township. That is unacceptable. And ask Manager Elliott to please look into that and take appropriate action as necessary. That is not the way we expect our residents to be treated. And certainly I wouldn't want to be treated that way if I came in with a question. That being said, I'm going to turn over our solicitor to give some response, but I expect that notwithstanding Mr. Diazio's response, this will be a conversation that continues with appropriate staff beyond tonight.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Much appreciated.
Thank you. And Dr. Hunzinger, it's good to put a name with a face. We've emailed. We had a meeting at Commissioner Brockington's request last week with some internal township staff members, myself, the township engineer. We spoke about this matter again. I'm going to dramatically oversimplify the response for purposes of the public meeting, but as you know, I've offered to schedule a meeting to meet with you, with Commissioner Brockington, with the township engineer. At a very, very high level, There are a series of land development agreements that govern the development of Ashbourne Meadows. And so when those development agreements were adopted, they contained certain restrictions, certain requirements in those documents. One of the topics that those land development agreements address is how stormwater is managed. And again, to dramatically oversimplify the matter for purposes of the public response, the stormwater was managed on a site-wide basis for that project, not on an individual house by house basis. And so there are certain limitations that site as a whole, the impervious surface cannot continue to get bigger and bigger without additional reviews. And so that's why it was part of the approvals with Ashbourne Meadows. And as I understand, there are restrictions in the HOA requirements that also relate to this, where you have to go through some additional or different procedures than if you didn't buy into a community where there were certain restrictions attached, not only to the development of that community, but also because of the fact that it's an HOA and there are some additional regulations. But as I've communicated to you and as at Commissioner Brockington's request, happy to set up a meeting. We've offered a Zoom meeting with Township Engineer, yourself, Commissioner Brockington, and we can go through it in more detail.
Yeah, I would just love to see where it says any impervious surface, because by definition, like my backyard was impervious, right? Like that's why they came and tore up our whole backyard, because it was full of rocks and cast iron pipes. So to be told that any development of any impervious surface, meaning that I put one drop of concrete on the ground warrants a $1,000 engineering escrow, is fairly ludicrous. And I'm just seeking, where does it state that anywhere? And we have not had that answer.
We could work on clarifying that and
Absolutely.
any of the other questions
Yeah.
you may have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here tonight. Anyone else in the hall tonight? Citizens Forum? Okay, I'll move on to Zoom. Ms. Melton, good evening. You may unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes.
I'm gonna be off before then. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Darlene Melton. I reside in the Historical District of Lamont, on Chelsea Road, 1800. I just have 3 things to say. One, I would like to thank everyone that was involved in getting the new sign at John Russell Park. It is, yes, thank you. It is very visible. It has the logo. So when people walk up the street, they can see where they are exactly at. As an update, one of the cars had moved, the tires are gone, and in all my decluttering of paperwork, I found the 1950 deed that the Robinsons deeded the 10 acres and then deeded back 2 acres for the commercial. But I'll share that later. What I would like to bring to the attention to the commissioners, along with the township, is that at the property of 7309 Butcher Street, owned now by Aqua, there is rust, yes, rust, showing on the water tank on the east side. Picture was taken earlier this month, and it is visible from School Lane. The other thing is I would like to bring to the attention is that Google Maps from 2011 through April of 2025 shows some changes, and now it shows some type of device on the gate. Vegetation has changed, and it looks as if some of the vegetation that was supposed to be there to hide the, I guess it's a pump station or some type of other structure there, seems to have also been gone. So I just would like to bring that to your attention, and if there's anything you can do in regards, the concern about the rust from one resident is it affecting our water supply? Honestly, I don't know whether there's water in that tower or not. And that's it, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Melton. Well done. We could have staff look into the water tower, certainly.
Thank you.
And determine whether it's something that needs Aqua's attention or not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens forum for this evening? Okay. Seeing none, I will close citizens forum and I will move for adjournment of the June 18th, 2025 Board of Commissioners meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.